Good afternoon and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I thought I'd jump on. I haven't done a lunchtime live for a while, but I thought I'd jump on this Friday afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are, and maybe just round up some of the news that's been in the Villa universe and been causing stirs on social media. As we know, in international break, there's transfer rumours, there's player quotes, there's all sorts of stuff going on. So I thought I'd jump on, get your thoughts in the comments as well on a couple of issues. Obviously, we're going to talk the Leon Bailey article from yesterday and his comments. Have obviously delved into that a little bit more, so I'll give my thoughts on that and get your thoughts in the comments as well. A bit on the betting sponsorship, the new sponsorship that's been announced, and your thoughts on that, and obviously I'll give my thoughts on that record deal apparently in terms of sponsorship and what that means moving forward. And then obviously, Ollie Watkins, Ezri Konsa, Douglas Luiz, will they face each other tomorrow night at Wembley? So before we get into it, hit that like button. As always, we are 8 subscribers now away from 3,500. So if you haven't already, if you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. Help us hit 3.5K. We've got a special show, special competition when we hit that milestone. So please do if you haven't already. And as I say, get your comments in on your thoughts on what's going on. So who's in the chat? Lewis is in. Good afternoon to you, mate. Gene, a lunchtime treat. Thank you very much. And Ricky, good afternoon to you as well. Let's talk Leon Bailey. Obviously, it came out, I guess, yesterday morning. John Townley reported it, and as usual, it's a bit clickbaity. Leon Bailey kind of gives shocking transfer announcement or something, or open to moving to bigger club. And as always, the headline isn't reflective in what the in what the actual story was. And I've always said I think Leon Bailey is fantastic. He comes across really, really well on interviews. He's very, very honest. He's very refreshing. And if we want players to be more open and honest when they're doing interviews, you're gonna have to start reporting what is actually said and how it's said, because they're just going to clam up and give stock answers again. But Leon is very, very refreshing. He's very honest, and he was in his home country. He's on a podcast called the Let's Be Honest podcast, and actually came across really, really well. And what he actually was said, obviously there's Raheem Sterling. There's one or two other Jamaican players who play in the Premier League, a couple of them at Chelsea, and he was asked kind of, would you be interested in ever joining like a big club, so to speak? And don't forget, in Jamaica, in America, Aston Villa is growing, and obviously someone like Leon Bailey is going to raise the profile of Aston Villa, and Birmingham has a huge Jamaican community, which I would have thought was one of the reasons why Leon Bailey joined. However, the clubs like Man United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, they're going to be the big clubs for those people in Jamaica. So they're going to have a different outlook on those type of clubs. So he was asked that question. And really he was quite uncomfortable in that answering it. Said, I don't really know how to answer that question. And he said he's very happy where he is. It was his dream to play in the Premier League. He's obviously doing that right now with Aston Villa. But said, you have big teams. You have big teams like Chelsea, and who wouldn't be interested if a big team came into them. But he's really focused at Aston Villa. He has a job to do, and he said you have big teams in England. They call themselves the Big Six, the Arsenals and the Chelseas. It's always been my dream to play in the Premier League, and I am right now. Who wouldn't want to go to a massive team, especially coming out of Jamaica? How big that is for the country, especially being who I am as well, and obviously wanting to shine more light on Jamaica and what he's achieved and what he wants to achieve in his country. So it was more in that context that he was saying it. But yeah, obviously, Sky will then jump on that and say he's open to joining a Big Six club. Why he would want to leave and go to a Man United or a Chelsea at this present time, I have no idea. But yeah, it's more in that context. So I actually think it's refreshing, and I don't understand what the problem is in a player saying that they would be interested if a Manchester United, a Liverpool, or a Real Madrid or a Barcelona came in for them. It's not as if the club wouldn't benefit from that player leaving anyway. They'd go for a huge transfer fee, so that would be a mutual benefit to both parties. So, that's football. That's how it works. So yeah, no issue for me on that part. And actually, if you watch more of the clips from the podcast, he actually talks a lot about him, not playing for Jamaica at the moment and being very angry at the way that they're treated and the professionalism or lack of professionalism in the national team. So I think he's a man of a lot of principles, and he stands up for what he believes in, which is really admirable. And I've said you can see there's a lot of leadership qualities with Leon Bailey, and yeah, fair play to him. I think he'll come back and he'll be absolutely fine. And his dad obviously was on Luke's podcast, fantastic interview. So make sure you see that. And he came out and commented about how he's really enjoying Aston Villa and don't kind of misquote his words. And obviously, Leon's come out and said the same thing. So bit of a storm in a teacup, obviously. Oh, thank you, Villa Bozzy. Thank you very much. And afternoon to you, Paul. Yeah, obviously a bit of a storm in a teacup, and obviously, in international break, they're always looking for little quotes or little angles to get a story. But it isn't really a story. He's just signed a new contract. I believe there's a clause in there to join a huge club, but it would be for a huge transfer fee. He's only going to get that move if he continues to play very well for Aston Villa, and that's how it works, and we will get handsomely rewarded for it. So good luck to him, and yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on. Michelle said, what Sky Sports put out about Leon wanting to join a Big Six club is another example of why I don't watch them or any mainstream sports media anymore, and why I stick to fan channels. Yeah, like I say, it's always trying to get an angle on a story, and some parts it's understandable, and in other parts it's annoying, because most people will just look at that headline or look at that, and they know that, and think, oh, Leon Bailey wants to leave Aston Villa, or Leon Bailey will join a big club or whatever, and then it's kind of assuming that Aston Villa aren't a big club and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I agree. Spengden, disappointing in Tamley and Sky. Yeah, little bit. Big up Rich, and for bringing context to the interview. The whole point of the interview was him stepping away from the national team for a bit. Somehow it's turned into this. Exactly. And look, the interviewer is always going to ask those type of questions. Always, they want to try and get a clip for a minute. Look how many views that podcast has got. Look how much that interaction that podcast has got. I understand why they ask him the question, but you could see he was slightly uncomfortable in answering it, and he was very honest in the way he answered it. As I said, who would not be interested in the club? Would be interested if an offer came in from a big team. It's not like they would say no. So it is what it is. That's life. So yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, Dunk said, forget Sky and BBC. Talk Sport rinsing it now. Exactly, and that's the annoying thing. Yes, Tielemans was misquoted earlier in the season, and he actually said, he's actually come out and said, he's actually loved his move to Villa. He hasn't regretted it one bit. He understands the needs and the kind of trials and tribulations of Premier League football. You're not always going to be in the first team. You've got to work your way into the squad. And look how he's playing now, and look at how much of a vital part of the squad he is now. And he might even end up captaining his country on Tuesday night as well. So huge turnaround for him. I think if anything is a lesson in turnaround for players, it's Leon Bailey, and in a smaller version of that, Yuri Tielemans, because like I say, he was getting a bit of criticism at the start of this season, and now he's come through really well. So yeah, that's it. That's it. That's my take on Leon Bailey. It's yeah, and as Lewis said, let his football do the talking. He looks happy at Villa. Exactly, mate. Totally right. So yes, Leon, you've got my backing. You've always had my backing, and you've got the Villa support, all the Villa supports backing now, and just come back. Just come back and smash it when you come back. And I think, look, the important bit is what he's raising, the information that he's raising about the Jamaican national team, because I know they've got visions of qualifying for World Cups and winning, CONCACAF Cups and stuff, but they're never going to do that if they're the back room and their kind of their organisation is as erratic as it is. So hopefully he's shining a light on what needs to happen there, rather than just talking about whether he'd be interested in a hypothetical situation if Chelsea or Man United or Arsenal put a bid in for him. The more important thing is what is or isn't happening with the Jamaican national team, not potentially a move coming through from a quote unquote bigger club. So let's move on that. Let's talk the sponsorship deal. So Betano have come in, and it was again announced yesterday evening that Aston Villa had reportedly signed a record sponsorship deal with Greek online betting company Betano for £40 million over the course of 2 seasons, so 20 million per season. It's the highest in Villa's history, which is I guess from my perspective, I'm not one who really is too fussed about whether it's a betting company or I don't really fuss too much, whether it was an alcoholic brand or whatever. Like, we're adults. Whether it's children with parents, you should kind of have your own responsibilities. So that side of things I don't really mind too much. And it is what it is at the end of the day. But I think it shows that we are now being taken seriously as a bigger club. I guess as well, you probably got to put it into context of what some of the other clubs are going to do deals wise. If we've gone from, I think it was 12 million, was it, with BK8 to 20 million a season with this one. If for example Arsenal come out with another 30 or 40% increase, it probably pales into insignificance, but it is a step in the right direction. And obviously we've seen the profit and sustainability and how close we are skating to that, and the FFP and how close we're skating to that. So if we can start to bring in higher grade sponsorships, Adidas with the kit, this Betano with the sponsorship, we'll probably do some sort of sleeve sponsorship deal as well. And then you're talking hopefully Champions League football. You're going to be looking into a real increase in funds and revenue for the club, and that's what we need and that's what we want. I think you'll see a slightly different Newcastle this next season coming up, because they will have some of that money that they raised from the group stages of the Champions League being able to be spent this season. So we need to make this money now to be able to spend it in the summer, to keep pushing on, to then go off, and hopefully if we make the group stage of the Champions League, get some wins in that, we then utilize that the season after as well and continue, because you can't stand still at the moment, and that's what's so important. So it's one of those I think most Villa fans will have to accept, and we'll go with it. I mean, my thought is my thing on the betting companies is I like children and adults to have the same kit. I know some people like it, the proper kit without the sponsorship on, but for me, I like adults and the kids to have the same kit. And I sometimes don't think that it looks quite right when the kids can't carry the sponsorship on their kit. The kazoo was nice because the kids could have what is the interpretation of the actual kit. And you look at like Acorns and AVFC Foundation that we've managed to utilize in the Conference League, it looks fantastic. So that's my only gripe with it. But in terms of the money it brings in, I've got no issue whatsoever. Dunk says sponsorship needs to bring in good money fundamentally. Didn't really want another gambling company though. Yeah, but look, I think it's just a necessity. Unfortunately, these gambling companies will be out soon in a couple of years, and there'll be some other, it'll be kind of Bitcoin, or it'll be investments or whatever that'll come through. It's always linked to money and some form of some form of like corporate. So we'll see what happens there. And then finally, more kind of encouraging, we could have 3 Aston Villa players on the pitch facing each other on Saturday night. Obviously, news that Harry Kane hasn't taken part in training today, So puts Ollie Watkins at centre stage. Does he get the start, or does Ivan Toney get the start? Obviously, I'm going to say Ollie Watkins. Does Ezri Konsa come in at some point, and does Douglas Luiz get the starting nod for Brazil? He's probably got a little bit of a way to go. I think there's a couple of players that are ahead of him in the pecking order. I mean, I would say not. They shouldn't be, but that's just the case at the moment with the Brazil side. He's only just, I think, got in the squad, so that says something at the moment. But yeah, I certainly think Ollie Watkins has got a chance of starting, and it would be great for him to start against Brazil. Just hope and pray he doesn't get injured, and hope that Konsa, he obviously was in the last squad, didn't get on. Hopefully he gets some minutes, because it does feel like a bit of a waste opportunity when you go into a squad and you don't get any minutes. So it'd be nice for him to get his first cap, but it'd be really good if Ollie could play and get a goal. So yeah, that would be brilliant. You guys, again, let me know your thoughts. Does Ivan Toney get the nod? I mean, Paul Merson said the other day Ivan Toney would take Ivan Toney and not Watkins, because it's pointless, and you need Ivan Toney for the penalties. So would you just bring him on to take penalties at the end of a game? Is that what you're saying? And obviously Watkins wouldn't start. I mean, I don't know. I always think that if you're in a situation in a tournament where you've got, let's say hopefully England have won their first two group games, you'd probably utilize some of the squad players in the third game to make sure that to give them minutes and give them valuable game time. So I don't agree with Paul Merson on that sense, and I think if Ollie continues his form, even if he gets 2, 3, 4 goals in the remaining 9 games, he'll have got 20 goals across the season, which would be a fantastic return, and would absolutely book his place on the flight to Germany. So he needs minutes, and he needs. He needs to get used to playing with the players, and there's 1 or 2 players out. Saka's pulled out of the squad. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 others that might be pulling out as well. Maybe Harry Kane does the same thing, so he might be just there as kind of a body at the moment, and just be showing his face in the squad. If he hasn't trained yet, I wouldn't suggest he would play, particularly with the situation that Bayern Munich are in. So yeah, we'll see. Duncan hopes he doesn't play Watkins, to be honest. Just another 90+ minute injury risk. Toney can start. I think Ollie would want to start, to be honest. I really do. So that would be interesting. Obviously, though, Matty Cash, this is the risks of international football. Matty Cash going off yesterday after 10 minutes after coming on for Poland. They won 5-1. But looks like he's got a bit of a hamstring injury. I've not heard anything on that, so I don't know if anyone in the comments knows anything about Matty Cash's injury, but that didn't look good. So these are all the risks of players going out on international duty, and I do understand it. But yeah, it's you want to play for your country at the end of the day, and they'll want to book their spot in the Euros with regards to the England side. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll do a transfer roundup. I did do a transfer talk the other day, so do get in the chat if you watch the video if you haven't seen that. Obviously, Pedro Gonçalves linked, Lewis Ferguson linked, who's really kind of highly rated, Scottish player, so could be the next John McGinn. But there's 1 or 2 others. Nico Williams again rearing its head, and Dybala again as well rearing its head. Obviously, they always come out. Emi Martinez is going to see Dybala and all that kind of stuff. So I do understand it's a bit clickbaity, but I might do a bit of a transfer roundup, and we'll hopefully do a show over the weekend. Fingers crossed when we hit 3.5K. Over 50 watching today at this time at lunchtime, which is amazing. So make sure you smash the like button, guys. As I say, at last check, it was 8 more to get to 3,500. I think someone's subscribed now, so that might be 7 more. So please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like I said, we'll be hopefully back over the weekend, and then it'll be back into Premier League previews and everything next week. So yeah, do make sure you stay in touch with the channel. But yeah, that'll be it from me. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.